The morning sun filtered through the gentle waves off Cerulean City, casting silver ribbons across the calm waters near the gym. Misty rose slowly, the weight of her decision lingering quietly within her, a subtle tension softened by the rhythmic pulse of the ocean. Leaving the gym had not been sudden, but a long-considered step toward something she could not yet name. She moved with deliberate calm, noticing the way the water lapped gently at the shores, the way the soft light reflected in tiny ripples, and the faint, steady hum of life beneath the surface. Even Psyduck, blinking with lazy curiosity, seemed to sense the quiet significance of the moment, remaining still and contemplative, as if respecting her unspoken resolve. She walked along the docks, her bare feet brushing the cool wood, feeling the texture and temperature with mindful attention. The familiar sight of the gym's walls, the polished floors, the banners fluttering softly in the breeze, all carried a comforting weight of history, of routines and responsibilities. But today, these anchors felt simultaneously like gentle tethers and distant echoes. Misty inhaled the crisp morning air, allowing herself to feel both gratitude and a subtle pull toward the unknown beyond the city's edges. She could imagine the oceans she had not yet sailed, the rivers she had not yet crossed, the lakes hidden in quiet valleys, each waiting with their own secrets and rhythms. As she stepped into a small boat tied to the dock, the currents seemed to respond to her presence, lifting and rocking the vessel gently, as if urging her forward. She allowed herself to sit calmly, hands resting on her lap, eyes scanning the horizon that stretched beyond the familiar skyline. The water shimmered in muted blues and silvers, reflecting a sky streaked with the pale gold of early light. Misty noticed the subtle movements beneath the surface, the glimmer of tiny fish weaving among the shallow reeds, the delicate sway of underwater plants in invisible currents, and the occasional flicker of a fin breaking the surface. Each detail was a quiet invitation to slow observation, a soft encouragement to move through the world with awareness rather than haste. The boat drifted, carried by the gentle pull of the current, and Misty felt herself matching the rhythm, her breath deep and even, her thoughts moving like slow eddies around the still center of her mind. She reflected on the years at the Cerulean Gym, the responsibilities she had carried, the competitions she had guided, and the careful balance she had maintained between duty and personal desire. She recognized that this journey was not a rejection of what she had built, but a continuation of it in a new form, a space for exploration, discovery, and quiet growth. Her Psyduck paddled gently alongside her, its movements tentative yet steady, an anchor of familiarity in the shifting flow of the moment. Misty watched it closely, noting how even in its absent-minded gestures, there was a rhythm, a subtle pattern of motion that mirrored the currents beneath the boat. She allowed herself to feel a profound connection with the small creature, understanding that travel alone did not mean isolation. Companionship could exist quietly, in the gentle presence of those who moved with her pace rather than against it. The horizon widened gradually, the familiar cityscape receding into soft silhouettes against the shimmering water. Misty let herself drift, without hurry, attuned to the subtle variations in light, wind, and water. She noticed how each ripple responded to the passing boat, how small particles of sand and plankton moved in delicate arcs, and how sunlight refracted through the waves in ever-changing patterns. These observations were not distractions but guides, invitations to inhabit the present fully, to appreciate the nuances of movement, color, and life that often passed unnoticed in the routines of the gym. As the city faded behind her, the vastness of the open water seemed to stretch infinitely, both intimidating and liberating. Misty allowed herself to settle into the gentle rocking of the boat, feeling the currents beneath as a soft, guiding hand. Her thoughts wandered to the rivers she had not explored, the lakes cradled by distant forests, and the mysteries of deeper seas untouched by human presence. Each vision was accompanied by a calm curiosity, a desire to observe and learn rather than to conquer or command. The journey ahead was undefined, but Misty felt a quiet confidence in her ability to navigate it. She trusted the subtle rhythms of water, wind, and light, and allowed the boat to carry her gently forward. Every motion, every sensation, every glimmer of movement beneath the surface became a thread, connecting her to the ocean, to the world around her, and to the unfolding of her own self. The first current, subtle and deliberate, carried with it the promise of exploration, the soft thrill of independence, and the quiet knowledge that growth often emerges in the stillness between decisions. Hours passed in gentle drift, the sunlight shifting across the water, warming her skin and illuminating the subtle textures of waves, foam, and floating debris. Misty observed, without judgment, letting the sensations, patterns, and reflections settle into her consciousness. Psyduck occasionally paddled closer or nudged her hand, reminders of companionship and shared attention. She felt the gentle ebb of fatigue and focus blending together, a soft harmony that encouraged patience, observation, and trust in the slow unfolding of time. By mid-afternoon, distant shores appeared, faint outlines of forests and rivers suggesting new environments to explore. Misty allowed herself to feel the quiet thrill of arrival, a soft anticipation of encounters yet to come, of Pokémon unseen, waters uncharted, and paths winding into the unknown. The boat moved steadily, guided by both her hand and the unseen currents. Beneath, carrying her toward experiences that would shape her not through competition, but through reflection, curiosity, and quiet adaptation. As evening approached, the sunlight softened, casting gentle golds and pale blues across the water. Misty brought the boat to a small inlet, a sheltered place to rest and prepare for the night. She observed the water's surface, noting the faint shimmer of life beneath, the slow sway of reeds and aquatic plants, and the distant silhouette of flying Pokémon circling high above. Every detail seemed imbued with significance, a reminder that the journey was as much about awareness as it was about destination. Settling by the water's edge, Misty allowed herself to breathe deeply, feeling the gentle pulse of currents beneath her and the soft cooling of the evening air. Psyduck nestled beside her, still and relaxed, a silent companion in the quiet. Misty's thoughts wandered softly through the day's experiences, noting the subtle joys, the calm observations, and the unfolding rhythm of her independence. She recognized that leaving Cerulean Gym had not created a void, but a space, a beginning marked by gentle currents guiding her toward growth, insight, and new connections. As night fell and the first stars reflected on the still waters, Misty lay back and allowed the quiet to envelop her. Each wave, each shimmer of moonlight, each faint rustle of wind and water blended into a soft, unbroken lullaby. The journey had begun, gentle, deliberate, and full of quiet wonder, and Misty felt herself sinking into the rhythm of exploration, trust, and self-discovery, ready to drift into sleep with the pulse of the water carrying her forward. Dawn brought a soft, pearly light over the inlet where Misty had rested, filtering through morning mists that hovered just above the water's surface. The gentle hiss of the currents and the quiet stirrings of the surrounding reeds created a subtle harmony, a rhythm that matched the slow unfolding of her thoughts. She rose deliberately, stretching with mindful awareness, feeling the subtle pull of muscles loosened by the previous day's gentle drift. Psyduck stirred beside her, blinking sleepily, its presence a soft comfort that anchored her in the continuity of this new life. The inlet fed into a narrow stream that twisted between low banks, lined with smooth stones and patches of water lilies that floated lazily on the gentle current. Misty stepped into the shallow water, allowing her bare feet to brush the sandy bottom, feeling the cool silken flow slip around her ankles. Each step was measured, deliberate, and slow, a quiet acknowledgement of the intimacy of water beneath her skin. Tiny fish darted among submerged plants, glimmering briefly, before vanishing into shadow. Misty watched with soft fascination, noticing patterns in their movement, the way they responded to light and current, the quiet elegance of life operating without haste. The stream widened gradually, becoming a tranquil ribbon of silver under the morning sun. Misty allowed herself to drift forward, letting the water guide her instead of attempting to push or pull against it. She observed the subtle gradient of color in the current, the way sunlight fractured through the surface, creating shimmering mosaics that shifted with every gentle wave. The motion of the stream mirrored the rhythm within her, each breath in alignment with the unhurried flow of water, every exhale releasing tension, doubt, and expectation. Along the banks, delicate flowers leaned toward the water, their petals brushing the surface as if participating in the silent dance of currents. Misty paused occasionally to trace their edges with careful fingers, feeling their smooth texture, noticing the subtle scent of damp earth and fresh water, and allowing the simplicity of the moment to settle into her consciousness. Each detail, however minute, became a meditation, a way to attune to the subtle beauty of the world she was only beginning to explore beyond the walls of Cerulean Gym. The soundscape of the stream was a soft, constant companion. The gentle gurgle of water over rocks, the faint rustle of reeds, the distant call of a bird, or the quiet splash of a Pokémon entering the current. Psyduck remained close, sometimes paddling lightly, sometimes floating still, as if sensing the meditative tempo of the environment. Misty realized that traveling alone did not mean isolation. Companionship could exist quietly, in synchronized attention and the gentle presence of those who shared the same space. As the day advanced, the stream opened into a broader, shallow river, its waters clear and cool. Misty observed the change in flow, the way the current widened, slowed, then curved around clusters of submerged rocks. Small schools of fish moved in tandem, glinting like liquid silver beneath the surface. Misty allowed herself to follow their movements with soft curiosity, tracing their paths without needing to influence them, learning from the natural rhythm and cooperative flow of the water-bound creatures. She felt an internal echo of their harmony, a subtle alignment between her own stillness and the world's quiet pulse. Occasionally, she spotted a Pokémon lingering near the river's edge, perhaps a wild Goldeen or a shy Psyduck reflecting its mirrored image in the water. She observed without approaching, respecting the boundaries of their domain. In this still observation, she felt a new depth to the bond she had with water. Pokémon, an understanding that attention, patience, and gentle awareness could create trust more enduring than command or possession. Her journey was not a test of skill, but a cultivation of presence, a careful attunement to the silent conversations flowing between water, life, and her own consciousness. By late afternoon, the river led to a small, crystalline lake framed by forested banks. Misty lingered at the edge, letting her hands trail through the water's surface, feeling the subtle currents, the coolness, and the gentle resistance of the liquid moving past her fingers. Sunlight fractured across the lake in scattered diamonds, illuminating submerged plants and the occasional shadow of a gliding Pokémon beneath the surface. Psyduck paddled slowly alongside her, occasionally pecking at the floating plants or gazing at the shifting reflections. Misty felt the quiet joy of discovery, the simple pleasure of moving unhurriedly through a world that responded with harmony to attentive observation. The lake seemed to stretch endlessly, a mirror to the sky above, a space where Misty could rest within herself. Even as she prepared for the continuing journey, she recognized the quiet progression of days as part of the rhythm of travel, each moment a deliberate unfolding of awareness, each observation a soft expansion of her understanding. She noticed the patterns of light and shadow, the subtle sway of aquatic plants, the movements of fish and flying Pokémon above, each element contributing to a symphony of calm and attentive life. As evening approached, Misty found a gentle bank to rest upon, letting Psyduck settle beside her. The water reflected the pale golds and blues of the setting sun, the gentle ripples a lullaby of motion and sound. Misty felt the currents of the day, the decisions, the quiet observations, the subtle alignments of her pace with the river's flow, settle into her consciousness. Each ripple, each shimmer, each faint call of a distant Pokémon became part of her internal rhythm, a soft meditation on movement, attention, and growth. Under the rising stars, Misty leaned back, letting her thoughts drift without insistence. The river whispered beneath her, carrying reflections of the day and gentle anticipation for the days to come. She realized that leaving Cerulean Gym had not been an act of abandonment, but of expansion, an opening of space within herself to explore the world, her companions, and her own inner currents. As sleep began to claim her, the gentle pulse of water, the shimmer of moonlight, and the quiet companionship of Psyduck enveloped her in serenity. guiding her into dreams filled with soft exploration and the promise of quiet growth. Morning unfolded gently, the sun spilling pale gold through the tall trees that bordered the lake. Misty rose slowly, feeling the soft earth beneath her feet and the subtle coolness of the morning air. Each breath she took carried the scent of damp leaves and flowing water, grounding her in the quiet rhythm of this forest she had yet to fully explore. Psyduck stirred beside her, stretching with a careful slowness, and Misty smiled faintly, appreciating the soft companionship that traveled alongside her. This forest, unknown and unclaimed, welcomed her with silent patience, the leaves rustling as if whispering encouragement for the journey ahead. The path leading from the lake wound between ancient trees, their trunks wide and moss-covered, roots coiling gently around rocks and the forest floor. Misty stepped lightly, mindful of the texture of soil and leaf litter beneath her feet. The air was thick with the subtle hum of life, distant birds calling softly to each other, the tiny shuffle of small Pokémon beneath fallen logs, and the faint ripple of a brook hidden among the undergrowth. Each sound blended into a quiet symphony, a guide for her attention, reminding her that this journey was not about speed or conquest, but about observation and presence. As she moved deeper into the forest, sunlight filtered in shifting patterns, dancing across ferns and flowering plants. Misty paused often, letting her hands trace the contours of leaves, noting the variations in texture, the interplay of light and shadow, and the hidden life thriving quietly around her. Tiny water droplets clung to the edges of leaves, refracting light like miniature crystals. A wild lotad floated briefly in a shallow pool, its green lily pad back blending perfectly with the water's surface. Misty watched without haste, sensing the delicate balance of each creature's movements and the gentle flow of the ecosystem. The forest thickened, and the gentle murmur of a stream guided her steps. Misty allowed herself to follow the water, its smooth curves leading her through glades and shaded hollows. Small Pokémon appeared along the banks, Oddish swaying with the breeze, Wingull perched silently on low branches, and a curious mudkip gliding in shallow pools. Each encounter was quiet, ephemeral, a soft invitation to witness without intrusion. Misty observed the creatures carefully, understanding that attention without interference created connection, a silent dialogue of awareness between her and the living world. The light shifted as hours passed, soft beams filtering through the canopy in scattered shafts that illuminated hidden mosses and delicate fungi. Misty's mind moved with the same measured rhythm as her surroundings, thoughts flowing gently like the streams she followed. Memories of Cerulean Gym surfaced, not with longing or regret, but as quiet reflections on past responsibilities and lessons learned. She realized that leaving had opened space not only for exploration of the world, but for deeper exploration of herself, for noticing the small, subtle currents of emotion and insight she had previously overlooked. She paused at a wide glade, where sunlight pooled in golden warmth and a gentle breeze stirred the undergrowth. Misty knelt by the edge of a small pond, dipping her hands into the water, feeling the cool flow wrap around her fingers and acknowledging the currents that existed both in the world and within her own awareness. Psyduck splashed lightly nearby, sending small ripples across the surface. Misty watched, noting how even the smallest movement created a wave that echoed outward, a quiet lesson in cause and effect, patience and mindfulness. Continuing along the stream, Misty discovered a gentle waterfall cascading over smooth stones, the water spilling in delicate threads into a shallow basin below. The mist created soft rainbows in the early light, and she paused again to watch, absorbing the tranquil beauty of the scene. A few wild goldines swam slowly in the basin, their movements calm and measured, a mirror of the serenity Misty sought within herself. She allowed her attention to dwell on their patterns, the way light caught on scales, and the gentle rhythm of the flowing water, letting each observation sink into her consciousness like a small, luminous stone settling in a clear pond. Time seemed to stretch as she moved, her footsteps and breaths harmonizing with the forest, the water, and the Pokémon around her. Misty began to notice subtle details, the faint shimmer of dew on spider webs, the distant glimmer of a tentacle drifting just beyond the pond. the soft creak of branches in the morning breeze. Each fragment of sensory detail became part of a quiet meditation, a practice of noticing without judgment, of inhabiting each moment fully. By late afternoon, Misty arrived at a clearing with a small, tranquil pond surrounded by mossy stones and flowering plants. The gentle gurgle of a hidden stream fed it, and the sunlight played on the water's surface, creating shifting, delicate reflections. Misty knelt beside the pond, letting her hands glide through the water, feeling the subtle eddies and currents. Psyduck paddled silently, observing her with calm, unwavering presence. Misty realized that her journey alone was not lonely. It was filled with quiet companions, patterns, and rhythms that invited reflection, patience, and gentle growth. As evening fell, the forest glowed softly, with the muted light of sunset filtering through leaves. Misty found a comfortable spot near the pond to rest, feeling the soft earth beneath her and the gentle cooling of the air. The faint rustle of nocturnal Pokémon beginning their nightly routines created a subtle background chorus, a lullaby of movement and sound. Misty allowed herself to lie back, eyes tracing the canopy above, breathing in sync with the soft rhythms of the forest, the quiet of the day, the pulse of the water, and the gentle presence of Psyduck enveloped her in a cocoon of calm, preparing her for sleep and the continuation of the journey in the days to come. Morning light seeped softly through the canopy, spilling in pale threads across the forest floor. Misty rose with a slow stretch, letting the calm rhythm of her breathing match the gentle sway of the trees. The forest seemed to breathe along with her, leaves rustling softly, shadows shifting with a subtle grace, and distant birds calling in quiet patterns. Psyduck stirred beside her, stepping into the morning light with tentative movements, a small companion that mirrored her reflective pace. Misty smiled faintly, aware that this journey was as much about inner discovery as the exploration of unfamiliar landscapes. Following the winding stream, she noticed a faint shimmer in the distance, a subtle glint among rocks and roots that hinted at hidden water. Curious, yet unhurried, she approached, the earth soft beneath her feet, moss cushioning each step. The sound of water grew delicate and intricate, a gentle cascade over uneven stones. Misty recognized the cadence of life within it, the way currents shaped small eddies, the way fish reacted to her presence, and the way the sunlight fractured through foliage to illuminate the water's surface. Every detail invited careful observation, a quiet meditation on the interconnectedness of natural movements. The source of the shimmer revealed itself as a hidden grotto, tucked behind a thin veil of hanging vines and mossy stones. A small waterfall spilled into a clear pool, its surface smooth with occasional ripples that reflected the soft gold of the morning sun. Misty paused at the entrance, sensing the hushed vitality within this secluded space. The air was cooler, carrying the scent of damp stone and fresh water, a clean and grounding presence that invited her to slow her pace even further. Psyduck waddled carefully behind her, blinking at the shimmering reflections, its quiet curiosity matching her own. Stepping closer, Misty allowed her hands to trail along the smooth water, feeling the subtle currents swirl around her fingers. Tiny aquatic Pokémon moved beneath the surface, Lotad, Marill, and a shy Poliwag, their motions calm and rhythmic. Misty observed them patiently, noticing the way each responded to light and shadow, to the gentle ripple of her hands, and to the soft pull of the waterfall above. She felt a profound sense of connection, a quiet understanding that presence alone could cultivate trust and harmony between her and the creatures around her. The grotto opened into a small cave behind the waterfall, its interior cool and shadowed, yet illuminated by pale light filtering through cracks in the rock. Misty entered slowly, her senses attuned to every sound and texture, the drip of water from above, the smooth curve of stone beneath her fingertips, the faint shimmer of moisture in the air. Psyduck followed hesitantly, stepping lightly on uneven ground. Within this hidden chamber, Misty felt a deep stillness, a sense of sanctuary that invited reflection. She realized that these moments, quiet, secluded, undisturbed, were vital to her growth, providing space to observe, to think, and to feel, without urgency. Sitting on a smooth stone, Misty allowed her thoughts to drift. She reflected on the responsibilities she had left behind at Cerulean Gym, on the expectations she had carried, and on the freedom now flowing quietly around her. Leaving had been an act of courage, a choice to move beyond the familiar, and yet each step was gentle, deliberate, and filled with awareness. Psyduck nestled at her side, its presence a reminder that companionship did not require constant speech or action, but could exist in silent alignment and shared rhythm. The water in the grotto seemed almost alive, reflecting light in subtle shifting patterns across the stone walls. Misty traced these reflections with her eyes, noticing minute changes as ripples moved slowly outward, as droplets fell from the ceiling, and as hidden fish swam among the shadowed recesses. Each movement was a lesson in patience, observation, and acceptance of natural flow. She realized that her journey was not merely about reaching new places, but about learning to inhabit the present fully, to observe and integrate without interference, and to recognize the beauty inherent in quiet patterns of life. Time passed softly, unmeasured by clocks or schedules, marked only by the gentle movement of water and the changing quality of light. Misty rose slowly, letting the grotto guide her forward as currents led her back to the main stream. She moved deliberately, observing subtle changes in foliage, listening to distant calls of wild Pokémon, and noticing the quiet rustle of insects hidden among moss and leaf litter. Every step, every breath, became a meditation on continuity, flow, and harmony between herself and the natural world. By late afternoon, Misty emerged from the grotto into a sunlit glade, the forest opening gently around her to reveal new paths along the riverbank. She paused at the water's edge, dipping her hands into the cool, clear stream, feeling the soft currents and noting the delicate balance of life that flowed within it. Psyduck paddled nearby, moving in time with the subtle waves. Misty felt a calm joy, a quiet appreciation of the space she had found, for reflection, for growth, and for gentle exploration. As evening approached, the light softened into muted golds and blues. Misty settled on a moss-covered bank to rest, allowing herself to breathe fully and match her rhythm with the flowing stream. The faint movement of fish beneath the surface, the soft rustle of leaves overhead, and the gentle murmur of water cascading nearby created a quiet symphony, guiding her toward rest. Misty recognized the continuity of her journey. Every step, every pause, every small observation had contributed to a slow and steady understanding of herself and the world around her. As the stars began to emerge, reflected softly on the rippling water, Misty leaned back, letting the tranquility envelop her. Psyduck nestled beside her, and she felt a deep sense of harmony with the flowing rhythms of forest, water, and life itself. Sleep approached gently, a continuation of the day's meditative pace, carrying her into dreams where the hidden grotto, the whispering stream, and the quiet pulse of exploration would guide her deeper into growth, awareness, and the unfolding adventure ahead. Morning arrived softly over the glade, the first light spilling in muted golds through the trees and reflecting on the calm river where Misty had slept. She rose slowly, aware of the gentle weight of Psyduck leaning against her, and felt the pulse of life in the surrounding forest. Every sound, the distant call of a wild Pokémon, the rustle of leaves, the subtle trickle of water, resonated with the quiet rhythm of her own breathing. Misty allowed herself to move deliberately, stepping into the shallow stream with awareness, feeling the cool water curl around her ankles, and letting the sensation settle into her consciousness. The river's path led her toward a faint mist rising in the distance, the gentle shimmer of a waterfall breaking through dense foliage. Misty approached with cautious curiosity, aware that the movement of water carried both presence and subtle energy. The waterfall was small, yet perfect, a ribbon of silver tumbling into a shallow pool that glimmered in fragmented light. Misty paused at the edge, observing the dance of droplets and ripples, the way sunlight fractured through the mist, and the patterns of tiny fish navigating the shallow currents. Psyduck lingered nearby, blinking calmly, mirroring her gentle attention. She stepped closer, letting her fingers trail through the water, feeling the cooling flow against her skin, the subtle pulse of currents beneath. Misty watched closely as small water Pokémon, Magikarp and Poliwag, moved through the pool, their motions fluid and unhurried. Each shift of light, each ripple, each flutter of a fin became a quiet meditation, a lesson in observing without interference, and understanding without control. Misty's heart softened in the presence of this silent ecosystem, realizing that exploration alone was a path to harmony, patience, and subtle insight. The waterfall's mist kissed her cheeks and arms as she knelt beside the pool, tracing the contours of smooth stones with her hands. Tiny droplets scattered like liquid silver in the sunlight, and the faint scent of fresh water and moss filled her senses. Misty noticed how each element, the stone, the flowing water, the living creatures, was part of a subtle dance that continued independently of her presence. She allowed herself to simply exist within it, letting each observation settle softly into her awareness, and feeling an expanding calm that seemed to flow directly from the waterfall into her consciousness. Hours passed with a gentle cadence. Misty explored the edges of the pool, observing the way currents met at the waterfall's base, how bubbles rose slowly, and how light refracted through moving water. Psyduck paddled softly alongside her, occasionally nudging a floating leaf or a curious fish. Misty smiled quietly, recognizing that the companionship of another being, even one so quiet and seemingly absent-minded, was deeply grounding in moments of stillness and reflection. The world seemed infinitely expansive, yet fully contained within the present moment, each ripple, each sound, each movement, a thread connecting her to the living environment around her. As the sun climbed higher, Misty ventured along the narrow paths behind the waterfall, discovering a hidden grotto formed by moss-covered stones and subtle overhangs. The interior was cool and shadowed, yet alive with quiet life. Water dripped from stalactites into shallow pools, creating soft echoes that resonated in the still air. Small aquatic Pokémon, undisturbed by her presence, moved with natural grace. Misty knelt on a smooth stone, letting her hands glide over the cool surface, tracing the currents beneath and feeling the pulse of energy in the water. The grotto offered a sanctuary, a place where observation and reflection merged seamlessly with the living rhythm of the forest. In this quiet space, Misty allowed herself to consider her journey. Leaving Cerulean Gym had been a leap into uncertainty, yet each step into the unknown brought discovery, insight, and a subtle deepening of awareness. The waterfall, the pool, the hidden grotto, all were reminders that growth required patience, attention, and a willingness to move with the flow rather than against it. Misty recognized the beauty in quiet moments, the lessons carried in observation, and the gentle wisdom of the world when experienced with care and presence. Time blended with sensation as afternoon faded into evening. Misty sat by the pool, allowing Psyduck to rest beside her, and let the soft light of the descending sun illuminate the water's surface. Shadows deepened among the rocks and trees, and the faint sounds of evening Pokémon began to weave through the forest. Misty closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the pulse of the waterfall, the gentle tug of the current, and the rhythmic presence of life around her. Each sensation was absorbed fully, a quiet meditation that carried her gently into a state of calm, reflection, and harmony. As twilight fell, Misty prepared a small resting spot near the pool. She watched the stars begin to reflect on the water, their faint shimmer mirrored in the gentle ripples. Psyduck nestled closely, and Misty lay back on the soft moss, feeling the subtle vibration of flowing water beneath her fingers. The day's exploration, the rhythms of the waterfall, and the quiet companionship of her Pokémon merged into a lullaby of sensation and awareness. Sleep approached gently, carrying with it the promise of new currents, hidden paths, and the unfolding lessons of the journey still to come. The morning unfolded in soft gray light, mist drifting lazily over the water's surface, creating a veil that blurred the edges of the world. Misty rose slowly, feeling the cool moisture on her skin and the gentle pull of the earth beneath her feet. Psyduck stirred beside her, stepping carefully into the mist, its small form moving in quiet harmony with the softened landscape. The lake before them was wide and still, reflecting the pale sky above, the edges of distant trees blurred in gentle gray, the surface occasionally broken by the subtle ripple of unseen fish or a wandering leaf. She walked along the shore, allowing each step to connect her deliberately to the damp earth and cool sand. The mist clung to her hair and shoulders, wrapping her in a quiet intimacy with the morning. Misty noticed the subtle differences in temperature between water, air, and ground, the way dew clung to leaves and grasses, the soft scent of wet foliage and moss rising from the earth. Psyduck paddled in a shallow curve near the shore, glancing at her occasionally with quiet, unspoken understanding. Together, they moved slowly, carefully, as if the mist itself guided the rhythm of their exploration. The lake opened into a series of small inlets and channels, each shaded by low-hanging branches and framed by delicate ferns. Misty followed the edge of the water with patient curiosity, observing tiny ripples that hinted at life beneath. She traced the reflections of trees and sky, noticing how the mist diffused the light into soft pastels and muted shadows. Small water Pokémon, Marill, Poliwag, and a curious Lotad emerged from hidden pools, their movements graceful and unhurried. Misty watched without disturbance, feeling a deepening awareness of the quiet interplay between life, water, and reflection. Eventually, the main body of the lake revealed a small island, shrouded in thicker mist and crowned with a cluster of tall, thin trees. Misty paused at the water's edge, allowing herself to consider the journey to the island. She felt no urgency, no compulsion, only the soft invitation of curiosity and gentle exploration. Psyduck quacked quietly, nudging her with small encouragement, a reminder that movement through the unknown could be deliberate, slow, and attentive. Wading carefully into the shallow water, Misty let the lake carry her, each step measured, each ripple acknowledged. The mist thickened around her, softening the edges of vision and sound, creating a quiet cocoon that separated the present moment from past and future. The water flowed gently around her legs, subtle currents brushing against her skin, and she allowed herself to become fully attuned to the sensation, the weight, and the rhythm of her surroundings. Psyduck paddled beside her, the familiar presence grounding her awareness in the continuity of companionship. Reaching the small island, Misty discovered a hidden grove with a shallow pool in its center, fed by a tiny spring bubbling from the rocks. Sunlight fractured in faint beams through the mist, illuminating delicate moss and tiny flowers at the edge of the pool. Misty knelt, trailing her hands in the cool water, feeling the subtle eddies and currents ripple through her fingers. Tiny aquatic Pokémon moved lazily beneath the surface, their slow, graceful arcs mirroring the calm unfolding of her own thoughts. She remained in the grove for hours, allowing herself to observe without interference, to breathe in harmony with the soft currents, to feel each detail, the gentle flow of water, the whisper of leaves, the subtle light on whetstone. As a lesson in patience and presence, the mist enveloped her in quiet serenity, each ripple, shadow, and reflection, a reminder that growth could be slow, deliberate, and beautiful in its subtlety. Psyduck rested nearby, occasionally dipping a paw into the pool, reinforcing the quiet companionship that had become a gentle anchor in her solitary journey. As afternoon waned, Misty explored the edges of the island further, noticing how small streams fed into the lake, how tiny fish glimmered in shallow water, how the trees bent gracefully with the current of the wind. She traced the interplay of light and shadow across the mossy stones, absorbing the patterns as one would a slow, flowing melody. Each observation deepened her sense of connection, not only with the landscape, but with the subtle rhythms of her own inner currents. Evening approached, and the mist softened into a delicate veil, turning the lake and grove into a mirrored, ethereal world. Misty found a flat stone to rest upon, allowing her gaze to drift across the silvery water and the blurred outlines of distant trees. Psyduck nestled against her side, and together they breathed in sync with the gentle pulse of the lake. Misty felt a profound calm, the merging of awareness and environment, of self and surrounding life, and recognized that her journey was unfolding not through haste or struggle, but through careful attention, gentle observation, and trust in the soft currents guiding her. As stars began to emerge above the misted lake, their reflections shimmering on the water, Misty lay back and allowed the quiet to envelop her. The subtle rhythm of water, wind, and life around her formed a lullaby, carrying her into restful sleep. In dreams, she floated alongside Psyduck through currents of silver and light, exploring hidden waters, subtle reflections, and quiet mysteries yet to be discovered. The journey continued, gentle, deliberate, and full of quiet wonder. Morning arrived as a soft haze of gold and silver over the misted lake. Misty rose slowly, feeling the gentle press of dew-soaked grass beneath her feet. Psyduck stirred quietly, stretching and blinking at the pale light, an unspoken companion guiding her through the muted rhythm of dawn. The lake mirrored the sky, its surface broken only by ripples from hidden fish and the occasional sway of floating lily pads. Misty inhaled the crisp air, letting its coolness fill her lungs and flow through her, a reminder that every journey begins with the quiet presence of a single moment. She followed a small stream that threaded from the lake into a wider river, noticing how the sunlight fractured on the water, scattering into ribbons of gold and silver. Each ripple moved with gentle purpose, carrying reflections of leaves, sky, and distant branches. And Misty allowed herself to drift alongside them, stepping lightly along the smooth banks. Psyduck paddled in shallow water, its movements measured, echoing the calm pace she sought within herself. Misty felt a profound stillness in their synchronized motion, a sense of harmony that transcended speech or action. The river widened, its waters flowing with slow certainty, reflecting trees and clouds with a soft, shimmering elegance. Misty paused to let her hands brush the surface, feeling the currents ripple and twist, delicate yet persistent. Tiny water Pokémon moved beneath her touch, Marill gliding smoothly, Poliwag spinning in quiet circles, and a single Goldeen arcing gracefully in the deeper pools. Misty observed the interplay of movement and reflection, sensing the quiet narrative of the river, a slow story written in patterns, light, and the gentle push of water against stone. Further along, the river curved into a sunlit glade where light poured through high branches, illuminating the water in shifting mosaics. Misty knelt by the edge, letting her palms rest in the flowing stream, absorbing the subtle vibrations of life that traveled in waves beneath her fingers. Psyduck floated close, occasionally nudging small floating leaves, their movements merging into a quiet choreography of presence and attention. Misty realized that this journey alone allowed her to inhabit moments deeply, to perceive rhythms and patterns that might otherwise have passed unnoticed in the routines of her past life at Cerulean Gym. The soundscape of the river was a soft companion, the gentle burble of currents over stones, the distant splash of unseen Pokémon, the faint whistle of wind through the leaves. Misty allowed each sound to merge with her own breath, her heartbeat, and the subtle movements of Psyduck beside her. Time seemed to stretch and soften, measured not in hours or minutes, but in the unfolding of ripples, the shifting of light, and the quiet movements of the world. Each moment was a gentle lesson in attentiveness, presence, and the rhythm of life flowing around her. As she moved along the banks, Misty noticed the river reflecting the sky in subtle changes, pale golds of early morning shifting towards soft blues and muted pinks of midday. She observed the small eddies where currents met, the tiny whirlpools spinning in slow rotation, and the playful arcs of fish darting through shallow pools. Each motion became a quiet meditation, a reflection of her own inner currents, and she allowed herself to follow them with gentle curiosity, neither interrupting nor directing, only witnessing. By late afternoon, the river opened into a broad, shallow delta, its surface shimmering with reflections of sky and surrounding trees. Misty paused on a soft, sandy bank, letting Psyduck explore nearby reeds and shallow pools. She traced the patterns of the water with her gaze, noting how currents branched, converged, and rejoined, carrying tiny particles of sand, leaves, and plankton in delicate arcs. Misty felt a subtle echo within herself, a reminder that growth and movement in life could mirror the quiet, patient flow of water, reshaping paths without force, guiding without haste. The delta led her toward a series of small islands, their edges dotted with reeds, mossy stones, and flowering shrubs. Misty allowed herself to drift slowly, observing the subtle changes in water, light, and life on each island. Small groups of Pokémon moved carefully through shallow waters, their movements deliberate yet graceful, reinforcing the sense that this world responded to gentle observation with openness and trust. Misty recognized that traveling alone had allowed her to cultivate this delicate attentiveness, a quiet awareness that resonated both outwardly with the environment and inwardly within herself. Evening descended softly, the sky streaked with muted golds and silvers that reflected across the river's surface. Misty found a sheltered bank on one of the islands, letting Psyduck settle at her side. She dipped her hands into the water, feeling the current pulse gently around her fingers, and breathed in rhythm with the river. Every ripple, reflection, and whisper of the wind became part of a meditative symphony, guiding her toward calm, introspection, and quiet rest. As stars began to appear above, reflected delicately on the water, Misty lay back, allowing the gentle pull of the river and the presence of Psyduck to lull her into serenity. The journey continued, flowing like the river itself, unhurried, luminous, and full of subtle discovery, carrying her softly into dreams filled with silvered currents, quiet ripples, and the promise of paths yet unseen. The morning arrived in gentle layers of pale gold and soft blue, the riverbank cloaked in a quiet mist that shifted with the slow movement of the water. Misty rose with deliberate calm, feeling the soft earth beneath her feet and the faint chill of dew. Psyduck stirred beside her, stretching and blinking slowly. A quiet companion, attuned to her rhythm. The river flowed in gentle arcs, reflecting the filtered sunlight and the distant outline of trees in a calm, muted mirror. Misty inhaled deeply, letting the cool, fresh air mingle with the scent of damp earth and reeds, centering her in the present moment. She stepped carefully along the veiled riverbank, her bare feet brushing against soft moss and smooth stones, each step deliberate, each motion attuned to the subtle pulse of life around her. Tiny water ripples shifted as her fingers traced the edge of the stream, and small aquatic Pokémon, Poliwag, Marill, and the occasional Lotad, moved calmly beneath the surface. Misty observed without interference, noticing the way currents shaped their paths, the gentle sway of submerged plants, and the delicate reflection of light on moving water. Each observation was a meditation, a quiet conversation with the natural rhythm of life. The river wound through shaded groves where the mist thickened, softening the edges of the trees and blurring the reflections on the water's surface. Misty walked slowly, occasionally pausing to touch the smooth bark of a tree, to feel the texture of moss beneath her fingers, or to watch the intricate patterns of sunlight filtering through the leaves. Every detail, however small, was absorbed fully, a practice in patience, awareness, and quiet attunement. Psyduck followed closely, its movements careful and deliberate, reinforcing the rhythm of shared presence. Along the veiled banks, Misty discovered small pools separated from the main flow, delicate mirrors of still water reflecting sky, branches, and the occasional passing cloud. She knelt beside one, letting her hands glide through the cool surface, feeling subtle eddies swirl gently around her fingers. Tiny Pokémon explored these pools with measured grace, their movements reflecting the quiet balance of life within the river system. Misty allowed herself to be absorbed in the interplay of water, light, and life, recognizing the calm clarity that emerged from sustained attention and observation. As the sun climbed higher, the mist gradually lifted, revealing a gentle expanse of river bordered by flowering reeds and smooth stones. Misty moved along the bank, noting the subtle shifts in light, the delicate play of shadows, and the small ripples caused by fish and floating leaves. Each detail was an opportunity to slow, to observe, and to integrate the lessons of calm, rhythm, and harmonious presence. Psyduck paddled gently alongside her, occasionally nudging a floating leaf, a small gesture of connection within the silent partnership they shared. The river widened into a shallow delta, the water reflecting sky and trees in fractured shifting patterns. Misty paused on a sandy bank, letting her gaze follow the gentle currents, observing how small eddies and arcs shaped movement through water. She felt a quiet resonance within herself, recognizing that her own inner currents mirrored the flows around her, subtle yet persistent, guiding without force, shaping without effort. Psyduck waddled nearby, occasionally dipping into the shallow water, grounding Misty in shared experience and attentive presence. Time unfolded softly, marked by the gentle interplay of light, water, and life. Misty moved slowly, letting each ripple, reflection, and sound shape the cadence of her steps and breaths. She noticed the subtle shimmer of sunlight on water, the faint rustle of reeds, and the distant calls of wild Pokémon beginning their evening routines. Each observation became part of a quiet meditation, a practice of harmonizing with the world rather than imposing herself upon it. Evening descended gradually, painting the river in muted golds, blues, and silvers. Misty found a soft patch of moss near the bank to rest upon, letting Psyduck settle beside her. She dipped her hands into the gentle flow of the water, feeling its pulse, and allowed the combined rhythm of river, forest, and companion to guide her into stillness. The subtle symphony of nature wrapped around her, a lullaby of movement, reflection, and quiet energy. As stars began to shimmer above the misted river, their reflections dancing on the water, Misty lay back and allowed herself to sink into serenity. Every ripple, every shadow, every faint movement became part of a calm, unbroken narrative of awareness and growth. Sleep approached like a gentle current, carrying her through dreams of flowing water, reflective surfaces, and the slow, steady unfolding of her journey. Misty understood that her path was neither rushed nor forced, but guided by patience, attention, and the quiet wisdom of the world itself. The morning arrived with a soft, silver light, the river unfolding in gentle arcs through a quiet valley. Misty rose slowly, feeling the cool dew beneath her feet and the soft weight of Psyduck at her side. The air was crisp and filled with the subtle scents of damp earth, flowering reeds, and flowing water. Every inhalation carried a sense of grounding, a gentle reminder that the world was alive with calm rhythms waiting to be observed. Misty's steps were slow and deliberate, her bare feet brushing the soft stones along the bank, each touch an invitation to connect with the currents beneath her. The river led her to a tranquil inlet, sheltered by leaning trees and overhanging vines. The water was still, reflecting the pale morning sky in a glassy surface, broken only by the occasional ripple of small, aquatic Pokémon navigating hidden channels. Misty knelt at the edge, letting her hands glide through the cool, clear water. Tiny eddies swirled softly around her fingers, carrying with them leaves, floating seeds, and the delicate shimmer of small fish. Psyduck paddled quietly nearby, moving in harmony with her calm rhythm. Misty allowed herself to linger, absorbing the subtle patterns of light and motion, each ripple a gentle meditation on the interconnectedness of life. She explored the edges of the inlet slowly, tracing the curves of the shore and noting the interplay of sunlight on water, the shifting shadows of leaves, and the subtle movements of hidden creatures. Small water Pokémon, untroubled by her presence, drifted gracefully in the shallows. Misty observed their motion patiently, feeling the harmony of their flow with the river's currents and sensing a quiet lesson in trust, patience, and careful attentiveness. Psyduck occasionally splashed gently, a soft reminder that presence and playfulness could coexist within the serenity of the morning. The inlet widened into a small bay, the water pooling between low, mossy rocks and clusters of reeds. Misty stepped carefully among the stones, feeling the cool water brush her ankles and noting the delicate balance of plants, stones, and small ripples. The sun rose higher, scattering light in subtle, fractured patterns that danced across the water's surface. Misty's mind mirrored this quiet beauty, each observation a reflection of the calm, attentive awareness she cultivated in every step of her journey. She discovered a small, hidden channel leading further into the inlet, shaded by dense trees and flowering shrubs. Misty followed it slowly, noting the soft gurgle of water over rocks, the faint glimmer of fish scales beneath the surface, and the delicate sway of submerged plants. The rhythm of the water became a guide, each step and breath syncing with the subtle pulses beneath her hands and feet. Psyduck paddled alongside her, an anchor of continuity in the softly shifting landscape. Hours passed in quiet drift. Misty paused frequently, letting the calmness of the inlet absorb her. Awareness. She observed the light filtering through branches, the reflections on the water, the faint patterns of movement as fish, insects, and leaves interacted. Each detail was noted with soft attention, each sensation integrated into her growing understanding of presence and flow. The journey was less about distance traveled than about depth of observation, each moment a thread woven into the fabric of her expanding perception. By late afternoon, the inlet opened slightly to a broader channel that led toward distant, shimmering waters. Misty paused at the edge, letting her hands linger in the cool flow, and Psyduck rest at her side. The gentle movement of water, the muted colors of light, and the quiet rustle of leaves created a meditative symphony, a lullaby for her senses. Misty felt a profound sense of calm, a quiet expansion of self into the rhythms of the surrounding world. As evening approached, the soft golds and silvers of sunset reflected across the water, shifting with every ripple and wavelet. Misty found a comfortable spot among mossy stones to rest, letting Psyduck nestle close. She observed the patterns of water and light, tracing each subtle movement with attentive curiosity. The world felt both infinite and intimately connected, every ripple, shadow, and reflection, part of a slow, unfolding meditation on presence and awareness. When the stars began to shimmer above, reflected delicately on the tranquil inlet, Misty lay back and allowed the calm to envelop her. Every sound, every movement, every faint gleam on the water's surface became part of a gentle, unbroken rhythm. Sleep approached like a soft current, carrying her into dreams filled with quiet waterways, drifting leaves, and silvered reflections. The journey continued, calm, deliberate, and full of subtle wonder, guiding her deeper into self-discovery and harmony with the living world. Morning arrived in a gentle haze, the sun spilling pale light across the edges of a glimmering marsh. Misty rose slowly, feeling the soft, damp earth beneath her feet and the subtle weight of Psyduck at her side. The air was cool, filled with the scent of wet reeds, flowering lilies, and the subtle warmth of rising sunlight. Misty inhaled deeply, allowing the serene atmosphere to flow into her, centering her in the present. The marsh stretched ahead, its waters calm, reflecting sky and foliage with a quiet shimmer, broken only by the occasional ripple of a Pokémon or a drifting leaf. She stepped carefully into the shallow water, feeling the cool currents swirl gently around her ankles. Psyduck paddled alongside, its movements measured and calm. Misty observed the small aquatic Pokémon, Poliwag spinning gently, Marill gliding softly through the water, and a curious Lotad drifting in place. Each movement mirrored the slow, deliberate rhythm of her journey. Misty allowed herself to follow their motions with gentle attention, sensing a deepening connection with the flow of life around her. The marsh expanded into a series of winding channels, bordered by reeds and mossy stones. Misty moved along them slowly, noting the interplay of light and shadow on the water's surface, the subtle shimmer of ripples, and the gentle sway of submerged plants. Tiny insects skimmed across the water, their delicate motion adding to the quiet symphony of life. Psyduck occasionally nudged a floating leaf or peered into a small pool, a soft reminder that companionship could exist in silence, presence, and gentle interaction. Misty paused at a small clearing where the sun filtered through high reeds, illuminating a shallow pool with shifting patterns of gold and green. She knelt, trailing her hands through the water, feeling the subtle eddies swirl around her fingers. Small fish darted beneath the surface, their movements graceful and unhurried. Misty watched patiently, sensing the quiet balance and trust present in this delicate ecosystem. Each observation deepened her understanding of presence, attentiveness, and the subtle currents that guided her own inner rhythm. She wandered further along the glimmering channels, noting the way sunlight fractured across the water, the gentle ripple of currents, and the subtle interactions of Pokémon with their environment. Every small detail became part of a quiet meditation, a practice of attuning her awareness to the harmonious interplay of life, light, and movement. Misty felt the calm expand within her, a soft sense of flow that connected her to the marsh and to herself. As afternoon passed, Misty discovered a narrow channel, leading to a secluded lagoon, its surface calm and reflective. She stepped slowly along the bank, mindful of each motion, letting the water's cool touch guide her pace. Psyduck followed carefully, occasionally stirring the shallow waters. Misty knelt at the lagoon's edge, watching tiny ripples and the slow dance of small fish beneath the surface. The lagoon seemed to hold a quiet, timeless stillness, a sanctuary where she could fully inhabit the present moment and observe the world with unhurried attention. Time moved gently, marked only by the subtle shifts of light, the movements of water and Pokémon, and the soft rustle of reeds in the breeze. Misty allowed herself to pause frequently, feeling the rhythm of the marsh echo within her, each breath and heartbeat aligning with the gentle pulse of the environment. Psyduck rested quietly, a grounding presence that reinforced the serenity of the space. Misty recognized that her journey was shaped not by distance traveled, but by depth of perception, the patient cultivation of awareness, and the quiet joy of observation. Evening descended in soft golds and muted blues, reflected across the lagoon's mirrored surface. Misty found a comfortable patch of moss to rest upon, letting Psyduck settle beside her. She dipped her hands into the gentle water, feeling the subtle current wrap around her fingers, and breathed in harmony with the environment. The world seemed to move with a soft, deliberate grace, each ripple and shimmer a meditation on life's quiet patterns. As the stars began to appear above, their faint glow mirrored in the still waters of the lagoon, Misty lay back, allowing the calm to envelop her. Every sound, movement, and reflection became part of a subtle symphony of serenity. Sleep approached gently, carrying her into dreams of shimmering waters, dancing light, and quiet exploration. The journey continued, flowing softly, guiding her deeper into self-discovery, harmony, and the meditative rhythm of her unfolding adventure. Morning came quietly, filtered through the delicate canopy of trees along a narrow crystal stream. Misty rose with deliberate calm, stretching slowly and feeling the cool, soft earth beneath her feet. Psyduck blinked at the pale light, a quiet companion sharing the gentle rhythm of dawn. The stream ahead shimmered like liquid glass, reflecting the subtle greens of leaves, the soft blues of sky, and the muted golds of the rising sun. Misty inhaled the crisp morning air, letting it fill her lungs and flow through her, grounding her in the present moment. She stepped lightly into the shallow waters, feeling the smooth stones beneath her feet and the gentle pull of the current. Psyduck paddled nearby, matching her unhurried pace. Tiny aquatic Pokémon, Poliwag, Marill, and a few shy Goldeen moved gracefully beneath the water, their delicate arcs reflecting the soft light. Misty observed each subtle motion, following the gentle rhythms, and felt her own awareness expanding in quiet harmony with the stream. The crystal waters led her through winding bends, shaded groves, and small pools where sunlight fractured into dancing patterns on the surface. Misty knelt frequently, letting her hands trail through the water, sensing eddies swirl around her fingers, feeling the pulse of life in each ripple. Psyduck explored nearby pools with soft curiosity, occasionally nudging a floating leaf or peering at the gentle movement of fish beneath the surface. Together, they moved in unspoken synchrony, part of a delicate balance between observer and environment. Misty discovered a hidden channel that led to a narrow grotto, where water trickled over smooth, crystal-like stones into a small basin. The light filtering in through gaps above created shimmering patterns across the mossy floor. She knelt by the basin, allowing her hands to glide through the cool water and watching tiny Pokémon navigate the shallow depths. Each ripple, each subtle reflection, each small movement became a meditation, a lesson in patience, attentiveness, and the gentle unfolding of life's patterns. She followed the stream deeper, noting the interplay of light and shadow on the water, the gentle sway of reeds, and the occasional flicker of fish scales catching sunlight. Time seemed to slow, measured only by the rhythm of her breath, the pulse of the water, and the subtle presence of Psyduck. Misty felt an increasing sense of calm, a soft connection between her own inner flow and the flowing currents around her. Each observation became a quiet thread, weaving her awareness into the fabric of the crystal stream. By midday, the stream opened into a broader pool, surrounded by moss-covered stones and delicate flowering plants. Misty paused at the edge, letting her hands rest in the water and tracing the subtle currents swirling beneath. Psyduck paddled gently nearby, their quiet companionship reinforcing the meditative stillness of the space. Misty realized that the journey was not a matter of distance or accomplishment, but of immersion, of learning to inhabit each moment fully and observe the quiet, intricate rhythms of life. The afternoon passed in gentle unfolding. Misty wandered along the banks, noting the subtle shifts in water flow, the delicate light filtering through the trees, and the soft rustle of leaves stirred by a distant breeze. Tiny ripples, the faint shimmer of fish, and the movements of aquatic plants became a silent symphony, guiding her awareness and deepening her sense of harmony with the world. Psyduck remained close, a steady anchor in the unfolding meditation of motion and reflection. As evening approached, the stream glimmered in muted golds and silvers, reflecting the changing light and deepening shadows. Misty found a comfortable stone to rest upon, letting Psyduck settle beside her. She dipped her hands in the water, feeling the gentle currents flow through her fingers, and allowed the combined rhythm of stream, forest, and companion to lull her into quiet stillness. Each ripple, reflection, and subtle sound was absorbed fully, a soft meditation guiding her toward rest. When stars began to emerge above, reflected delicately in the crystal waters, Misty lay back and allowed the serene currents of the stream to envelop her. Every movement, every sound, every shimmering reflection became part of a calm, continuous rhythm. Sleep approached like a gentle tide, carrying her into dreams of luminous waters, quiet ripples, and reflective journeys. The adventure continued, flowing softly, illuminating inner currents, and guiding her deeper into understanding, patience, and harmony with the living world. Morning arrived in soft, muted light, filtering through the tall, slender reeds that bordered a quiet lagoon. Misty rose slowly, feeling the damp earth beneath her feet and the gentle weight of Psyduck at her side. The air was filled with the delicate scent of water, moss, and flowering plants, carrying with it the subtle hum of hidden life. Every breath she took seemed to deepen her connection to the surrounding world, anchoring her in the quiet rhythm of morning. She stepped along the water's edge, feeling the cool current lap at her ankles and the soft give of moss underfoot. Psyduck paddled beside her, moving in gentle synchrony. Small Pokémon emerged from hidden pools, Poliwag spinning lazily, Marill gliding smoothly, and a shy Lotad drifting near the reeds. Misty observed each subtle movement, noticing how the water shaped the flow of life around her and how light played across the gentle ripples. Each observation became a quiet meditation, a way to attune her awareness to the rhythm of the world. The reeds swayed softly in the morning breeze, brushing against one another with gentle whispers. Misty walked slowly among them, listening to the subtle murmurs, feeling the caress of each stem as she passed. The lagoon's surface mirrored the shifting sky, fractured into ribbons of pale gold and silver by the faint ripples of hidden currents. Psyduck occasionally splashed a soft ripple across the water, adding to the subtle symphony of sound and motion. Misty smiled faintly, appreciating the quiet dialogue of presence that passed between her, her companion, and the delicate ecosystem. She discovered a narrow channel winding through the reeds, leading to a secluded pool where sunlight filtered in scattered beams. Misty knelt at the water's edge, trailing her hands through the cool flow and observing the tiny fish that navigated the shallow depths. Each movement of the water, each ripple, each shifting shadow, became part of a slow, unfolding meditation. Psyduck remained nearby, floating gently, occasionally nudging a floating leaf with curious, quiet attentiveness. Misty felt a deep calm, a sense of connection that needed no words, only observation and gentle presence. The lagoon opened into a wider expanse, the reeds thinning to reveal reflective waters stretching toward the horizon. Misty moved carefully, stepping along mossy stones and shallow banks, letting her awareness absorb every detail, the subtle shimmer of water, the delicate rustle of reeds, the faint glimmer of small Pokémon beneath the surface. Time became soft and unmeasured, marked only by the rhythm of her breath, the gentle movements of Psyduck, and the quiet pulse of the natural world. As the day progressed, Misty explored the fringes of the lagoon, tracing currents, observing the interplay of light and shadow, and noting the delicate arcs of fish and drifting leaves. Each subtle detail enriched her awareness, weaving a quiet tapestry of reflection, observation, and harmony. The lagoon and its whispering reeds offered both sanctuary and guidance, a reminder that growth and understanding emerged from patience, attentiveness, and gentle immersion in the world. By late afternoon, the sunlight softened, casting warm hues across the water and reeds. Misty found a comfortable spot on a moss-covered bank, allowing Psyduck to rest beside her. She dipped her hands into the cool flow of the lagoon, feeling the subtle eddies swirl around her fingers and letting her mind merge with the rhythm of water, wind, and life. Each ripple, reflection, and whisper became part of a meditative symphony, guiding her toward calm, insight, and quiet rest. As evening approached, stars began to emerge above, reflected softly on the water's surface. Misty lay back among the reeds, allowing the gentle sway and soft whispers to envelop her. Every subtle sound, every movement, and every reflection became part of a continuous current of serenity. Sleep approached like a tender tide, carrying her into dreams filled with drifting reeds, reflective waters, and the quiet unfolding of her journey. Her path continued, soft and deliberate, deepening her awareness and harmony with the world around her. Morning arrived in soft, pearlescent light, the air carrying a faint scent of wet stone and blooming lilies. Misty rose slowly, feeling the gentle support of moss beneath her feet and the quiet presence of Psyduck at her side. Before her lay a luminous pond, its surface smooth and reflective, catching the subtle hues of dawn and scattering them in delicate patterns. The world seemed suspended in quiet anticipation, each breath and movement harmonizing with the serene pulse of the environment. She approached the pond cautiously, stepping lightly on mossy stones that lined the shallow edges. Psyduck paddled in the cool water nearby, its small ripples forming gentle patterns that shimmered in the soft light. Misty let her hands trail across the surface, feeling the slight resistance of water, the gentle tug of hidden currents, and the subtle touch of small Pokémon moving beneath. Tiny Marill and Poliwag glided gracefully, their movements fluid and unhurried, each ripple a lesson in patience and attentiveness. The pond's light reflected not only the sky above, but also the surrounding flora, delicate reeds, flowering shrubs, and moss-covered stones. Misty observed how sunlight fragmented across ripples, tracing ephemeral shapes that shifted with every subtle movement. Psyduck occasionally nudged a leaf or splashed gently, a small, silent companion, contributing to the quiet symphony of water, light, and life. Misty allowed herself to immerse fully in the moment, letting each reflection, ripple, and whisper of nature guide her awareness deeper. She wandered along the pond's edge, pausing to study each subtle change in the water and light, each gentle sway of reeds and leaves. Time lost its linear quality, measured only by breath, heartbeat, and the serene pulse of the pond. Misty knelt on a smooth stone, letting the water lap at her hands and observing the delicate dance of fish beneath the surface. Each motion was a soft meditation, a quiet teaching in presence, patience, and harmony with the natural world. The pond opened into a series of small, interconnected pools, each shimmering differently as light passed through the trees. Misty followed their gentle progression, moving slowly and deliberately, observing the subtle shifts of currents and the play of reflections across water and stone. Psyduck moved alongside her, stepping carefully, paddling quietly, a constant presence in the rhythm of the journey. Misty felt the deep calm that arose from complete immersion in attentive observation, a sense of inner quiet, expanding with each passing moment. By afternoon, Misty found a secluded nook at the far edge of the pond, where a cluster of reeds created a natural canopy over the water. She knelt there, letting her hands trace the ripples and currents, feeling the life beneath her touch and listening to the faint sounds of the environment. the soft whisper of wind through reeds, the gentle splash of Pokémon, and the quiet murmur of the pond's flow. Psyduck rested close by, eyes half closed, breathing in harmony with her calm rhythm. As the day faded, the pond reflected the soft golds and silvers of evening, light scattering gently across its surface. Misty rested on a flat, moss-covered stone, dipping her hands into the cool water, feeling the subtle eddies curl around her fingers. Every ripple, reflection, and movement became part of a meditative flow, a quiet guide into stillness, awareness, and inner harmony. Psyduck leaned against her gently, a grounding presence in the serene world around them. Night descended, and stars began to shimmer above, mirrored delicately on the luminous pond. Misty lay back, letting the gentle rhythm of water, wind, and life enfold her. Each sound, each movement, each faint reflection contributed to a continuous lullaby of presence and serenity. Sleep approached like a tender current, carrying her into dreams filled with softly glimmering waters, quiet ripples, and the calm unfolding of her journey. Her path continued, gentle, reflective, and full of quiet wonder. Morning arrived in a soft haze of silver and pale gold, casting delicate reflections across the marshlands. Misty rose slowly, feeling the gentle support of moss and damp soil beneath her feet. Psyduck, close by, as a quiet, steady companion. The air was filled with the faint scent of wet reeds, soft blossoms, and cool water, each breath grounding her in the rhythm of the present. The marsh stretched wide, its mirrored surfaces rippling gently with the movement of hidden aquatic life, the distant calls of Pokémon echoing softly across the expanse. She moved carefully along the water's edge, letting her bare feet sink slightly into the soft mud, each step deliberate, each motion attuned to the pulse of the marsh. Psyduck paddled alongside, matching her slow pace, occasionally nudging a leaf or floating blossom. Small Pokémon, Poliwag, Marill, and Shy Goldeen, navigated shallow pools with fluid grace, their arcs and ripples merging seamlessly with the quiet flow of water and light. Misty observed attentively, allowing each ripple, reflection, and gentle sway to deepen her sense of calm and presence. The marsh opened into a series of interconnected waterways, lined with tall reeds, swaying softly in a gentle breeze. Misty wandered among them, tracing the subtle currents with her hands and listening to the soft whispers of the wind through the stalks. Sunlight fractured through the mist in pale golden threads, casting shifting patterns across water and moss. Psyduck rested occasionally at her side, eyes half closed, breathing in harmony with the tranquil rhythm. Each moment became a quiet meditation, a lesson in patience, attentiveness, and gentle awareness. She discovered a secluded pool surrounded by smooth stones and flowering reeds, where sunlight illuminated the water in fragmented silver patterns. Misty knelt beside it, letting her hands glide through the cool current, feeling the gentle eddies swirl and fold around her fingers. Tiny fish darted gracefully beneath the surface, moving with effortless harmony. Psyduck floated calmly nearby, occasionally stirring the water softly, their shared presence a quiet anchor in the stillness of the marsh. Time passed gently, measured only by the rhythm of Misty's breath, the soft pulses of the water, and the subtle movements of life all around her. She explored the edges of the marsh, noting the delicate interplay of light, shadow, and reflection, observing the subtle behaviors of Pokémon, and feeling the quiet wisdom of the natural environment seep into her awareness. Each ripple, each whisper of wind, each shimmer of water became a meditation in motion, reinforcing the interconnectedness of all things. As afternoon faded into evening, the marshlands glimmered in soft golds and muted silvers, light dancing gently across each surface. Misty found a comfortable spot among moss-covered stones to rest, allowing Psyduck to settle close. She dipped her hands into the shallow water, feeling its pulse, and letting the gentle flow guide her into quiet reflection. Every sound, every movement, every reflection became part of an unbroken rhythm of serenity, a lullaby of awareness and connection. Night approached, and the first stars appeared, their faint glow mirrored across the silvered marsh. Misty lay back, letting the gentle ripples and quiet whispers of water and reeds envelop her. Each movement, each soft sound, each delicate reflection merged into a continuous current of calm. Sleep arrived like a tender tide, carrying her through dreams of shimmering waters, whispering reeds, and quiet exploration. Her journey, though nearing its final chapters, remained a slow, deliberate unfolding of inner discovery, harmony, and serenity with the living world around her. The morning unfolded with a delicate palette of gold and pale blue, the horizon stretching endlessly above the quiet landscape. Misty rose slowly, feeling the soft support of earth and moss beneath her feet, Psyduck close by as a steady, gentle presence. The air was calm, carrying faint scents of distant water, wildflowers, and sun-warmed soil. Every breath anchored her in the present, a reminder that the journey had been as much inward as outward, every step a quiet lesson in awareness, patience, and gentle understanding. She moved toward a broad expanse where the marsh and river converged, the waters reflecting the sky in shimmering liquid silver. Misty paused at the edge, letting her hands touch the surface, feeling subtle eddies fold and swirl around her fingers. Tiny Pokémon, Poliwag, Marill, Goldeen, moved gracefully through the currents, unhurried and harmonious. Psyduck rested beside her, nudging a floating leaf softly, a gentle anchor to shared presence. Misty closed her eyes, letting the rhythm of water, wind, and life merge with her own heartbeat, a profound sense of completion and clarity washing through her. The days of wandering, of observing the silent flow of rivers, hidden lagoons, shimmering ponds, and whispering reeds, had become a meditation. Misty recognized the subtle changes in herself. Patience deepened, attention sharpened, and a quiet confidence emerged, grounded not in competition or recognition, but in attuned presence. Each ripple, reflection, and sound along her journey had left an indelible mark, shaping her inner rhythm and the way she experienced the world. She walked along the converging waters, observing the interplay of currents, the gentle arcs of fish, the soft sway of reeds, and the fractured reflections of sunlight. Every detail carried meaning. Every movement offered insight into harmony, subtlety, and the balance between self and environment. Misty felt a quiet gratitude, a serene awareness that each moment, no matter how small or fleeting, held lessons if observed with care. Psyduck mirrored her calm, a reminder that companionship need not speak to a firm presence. It simply exists in harmony and trust. The horizon stretched wider as the sun climbed, casting elongated reflections across the waters. Misty lingered at the edge, letting the cool current brush her feet and fingers, absorbing the quiet energy that pulsed through every ripple, every shadow, every faint shimmer. She realized that the journey had transformed her, not through achievements or accolades, but through quiet immersion, reflective observation, and gentle alignment with the natural rhythms around her. The world's soft currents had guided her into a new understanding of patience, presence, and quiet strength. As afternoon waned, Misty found a comfortable spot on a smooth, mossy bank where the water pooled in gentle eddies. Psyduck nestled beside her, calm and unhurried. She leaned back, letting the warmth of the sun and the subtle movements of water and life envelop her. Every ripple, every reflection, every whisper of wind became part of a continuous meditation, a soft lullaby that carried her beyond thought and into serene awareness. Evening settled across the horizon, painting the water in muted golds, silvers, and gentle blues. Misty lay back fully, Psyduck at her side, feeling the subtle pulse of the earth, water, and wind beneath her. Stars began to shimmer in the sky, mirrored delicately in the still waters, each point of light a reflection of the journey she had traversed within and without. Misty felt the soft completion of her odyssey, a quiet understanding that the path was not a line from start to finish, but a flowing continuum, shaped by attention, presence, and gentle care. Sleep approached like a tender current, carrying Misty and Psyduck into dreams of reflective waters, drifting leaves, soft ripples, and quiet horizons. The journey had led her not to distant accolades or external triumphs, but to a profound alignment with the subtle rhythms of life, a calm attunement to the world and herself. Misty rested, fully immersed in the harmony she had cultivated, ready to awaken with the knowledge that every moment of observation, every ripple followed, every silent breath along the way had shaped her into a traveler of quiet wisdom, serene presence, and enduring calm.